If I asked you which game pleasantly surprised you most in recent years, which game comes to mind? For me, there are actually a number of games I went into with low or no expectations and thoroughly enjoyed recently. And one of those games is the game that I'll be talking about today. If you enjoy games like the Dark Souls franchise, Gears of War, Left 4 Dead, or the Spec Ops missions from Call of Duty games, then boy, do I have a treat for you with today's game. And that game is Remnant 2. My name is BigWynter, and let's dive right in. First and foremost, what kind of game is Remnant 2 and what should you expect? Well, on Steam, it is listed as a Souls-like co-op action RPG. But what they forgot to mention was gunny. Lots of gunny. And if you're not quite sure what Souls-like actually means, it pretty much means the game is hard and you're expected to die quite a bit. And when you die, you tend to revert back to a checkpoint. Picture the bonfires or sites of grace from Dark Souls or Elden Ring. However, don't let the Souls-like label put you off. Whilst I thoroughly enjoyed Elden Ring, a lot of people simply refuse to keep playing the game as it can be absolutely crushing at points. And there is no option to simply reduce the difficulty of the game. But with Remnant 2, at the start of the game, you can absolutely select an easier or more challenging difficulty based on your level of experience with games. But to loosely explain the game itself without giving too much away, your goal is to enter a world and defeat the big boss monster in each stage with a mixture of your character's abilities as well as both weapon and melee combat. There are checkpoints in the forms of crystals that you can rest and respawn at along your journey, and once you've completed a world, you can travel back to home base to upgrade your character and weapons. Then, when you're ready, you can move on to the next world. To begin the game, you're met with a short tutorial period before you'll be allowed to choose your class. There are 12 classes in total with a ton of customization in the way of perks, traits, and archetypes, and if you really want to, you can spec into 2 classes at the same time for a ton of utility. Today's video isn't really an in-depth look at the class system, but take my word for it, this game leans massively into customization and replayability, and no one playthrough will be the same as the other, which honestly gives it some roguelike-like qualities. You can either play this game alone or with up to 2 buddies as you tackle your adventures. Each world you enter is also randomly rolled, which further differentiates each playthrough. Regardless of which world you enter though, they have such amazing depth and ambience to them, from the art style of your surroundings to the enemy design as you fight your way through. The game is visually stunning, and despite some comments I've seen online, to me and the buddies that I've been playing with, the game actually runs really well despite the quality of your surroundings, which for me led to some great immersion. The music's really good.
Yeah, this game's so good.
Yeah, just like, look, come and stand on here, lads. Can just look out over there. Listen to this shit. My legs. I'm dead. In terms of gameplay mechanics, the game is actually really clever, and some of the boss fights I've encountered genuinely had me shook at how cool they were. There are a ton of inventive puzzles that really get you thinking without being overly frustrating, and if you're a sucker for lore and hidden knowledge, the game has a ton of that too. Although, when you're playing with 2 other chaotic reprobates who want gunny, you might just end up skipping a lot. The weapons and combat are also super fun to use. Whilst you do start off with some pretty basic weapons to begin with, the game does a nice job of balancing out your power level until you're able to find some new and creative weapons that you can further upgrade later at home base. And whilst this game doesn't have a ton of depth and complex mods, perks, and upgrades, the game doesn't have to be that way. You can totally get by with runny and gunny if that's more your speed. This game is a great time playing by yourself, but to me, these types of games are always more fun with buddies. My one and only complaint on the multiplayer side of things is that it's only 3 players, which I think is a bit of an odd number to set alone personally. I do kind of get it though. I think with a 4th or 5th additional player, you might become a little strong as a team, and whilst the maps and levels are expansive, the boss arenas that you get locked into are not absurdly large to facilitate the greater challenge. Picture the fog you go through in the Souls games. In Remnant 2, it's essentially the same mechanic. And the observant among you have probably noticed one glaring fact that I've overlooked so far, and that is the fact that this game is Remnant 2. Yes, there is a first Remnant game, but you don't have to play it beforehand. Whilst you would gain some practice with the mechanics and you would learn a ton of lore, the second one is honestly just a more enjoyable experience, but the first Remnant is still a great game. On Steam, the game is going for 42 squidaroonies, which is not the most expensive per today's standards, but if you have a Game Pass, you do have access to it for free, and I would totally recommend giving it a go. I was super pleasantly surprised by this game, and I'm totally planning to clock in some more game time soon. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please drop a like and sub if you did. Let me know which game you'd like to see next, or if you're going to give this one a try. I would love to hear how you got on with it in the comments or in the Discord, which is linked below. Thank you for watching, and much love.